Thank you so much for tuning into The Blend. My name is Steve Benz. We are broadcasting from our Chicago studios. Today's guest, you know him, you'd love him. He was the former frontman of one of the most successful 70s and 80s band. Also, he's been a solo artist for well over 30 years. He's got brand new music with an expectation to release it next month. Let's welcome Dennis DeYoung. Dennis, do you still think you're going to release the music on time?
God willing and the creek don't rise, my friend. For the last 2.5 years, I've been working on this record with the ultimate goal of releasing it during a pandemic. He said with a smile. I don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going on. Yes, in theory, I think it's going to come on the April 10th. But, it's odd because I've been doing interviews, and it feels, I don't know, trivial compared to what's going on. Still, the show must go on, I guess. Well, not on Broadway, apparently, and certainly not with concerts, but hopefully this will be something that we get a hold of and that we can control, and the least amount of danger to people's health is avoided. But the economic hit on this thing is not going to be small.
No, but we need the music. It's if we're going to be trapped inside, like I am right now, I want music. I want new music. That's going to make me feel better.
Well then, kids, everybody needs music. You got to go hear my duet with Julian Lennon, To the Good Old Days. If ever there was a song right now that would be helpful, it's a song like that kind of reminisces about.
Sure.
All of us have the feeling that there was a point in our life, most specifically when we're younger, when all things seemed possible and we were still innocent and we didn't have all the responsibilities of modern life. But it's still a toast to those things that went right and went wrong in our past, and then to say, look, here we are, we made it.
Now, how long have you known Julian? It seems like you've known him for some time.
I didn't know him at all. This was my last album. I wrote a Beatle kind of a tribute song in the complete and total Beatles style, and about seeing them on Ed Sullivan in 1964 and how it changed my life and changed the life of millions of people, not just musicians, maybe billions. And it's done like a two-part harmony, and I was trying to figure out who could I sing this with, and I thought, I wonder if Julian Lennon would be interested. So I was getting ready to send it to him, and I listened to it again and thought, well, he shouldn't do a song like this. He'll be criticized and crucified for, doing a song that sounds this much like the Beatles. So I went to the piano when I wrote a song expressly for he and I to sing together. And I sent it to him cold. I didn't know him, never met him. And he wrote back that he'd be honored to do it. And so we met in Brooklyn, and we recorded it. I had him do the lead vocal the way he wanted to do it. And I brought it back here to Chicago, and I matched his vocals, and that's pretty much it.
Now,
how about that?
That's a hard story to believe, because to me it sounded like that both of you had known each other for years, and the harmonies. I was really surprised. Is he aware that he sounds like his dad, or does he have really no idea?
Well, he's not an idiot. Of course, he takes a lot of, I think, undue criticism. He's a very talented guy. When he released Velat in '84, that was my Desert Moon was out at the same time. Yep. I was very aware of him.
Yep.
Being a Beatle fan, I bought Velat, and I could have asked other people to sing with me, but Jules was the guy with the talent.
Yep, true.
And so I wrote him and told him so, and he did it. I know it. Look, the universe does what it wants, as we know right now, don't we? It will pick and choose randomly, apparently, what it's going to do. And this is one of those things where it kind of spun in a nice way toward me, never expecting him to. I didn't know if he would even respond, because I had a contingency plan if he said no, to get, try to find someone else to sing it with me. But there you go, it happened. How about that from a guy who saw his dad's band in 1964, and it changed his life.
It's amazing. Now, I've had Julian a couple of times. You've been more difficult. I've had a harder time getting you on than most. You are very difficult, my friend.
Well, I'll give you my home address. You can come over and have brajol.
That's funny. We could just have coffee and stuff, because I know you're still somewhere in the Chicagoland area. I met Jim Peterick, and he played some of his new music. I'm still glad that you're, true and true, you're a Chicagoan.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was born and raised here, lived here my whole life, and although I actually officially moved out of the city at 25 and never moved back in, but,
right.
Always in this, as they say, the Chicagoland area. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, I'm a Chicagoan, and I think my point of view regarding social issues and personal mm-hmm. issues are guided and driven by my South Side upbringing. I really believe that. So you could take the boy out of Chicago, but you can't take Chicago out of the boy when it comes to me.
That's true. Just like you can never, ever take the sound of Styx out of what you do, because to me, you will always be the voice of Styx.
Well, I appreciate that. I certainly sang the vast majority of hit yep. and wrote the vast majority yep. of hit records that we had, and including some of the big AOR tracks. Yep. So yeah, it was my band from in the beginning. Sure. John, Chuck, and I. The album title 26 East represents the house, my parents' address in Chicago, mm-hmm. where the band was formed in the basement between John and Chuck Manazzo and myself. But from the very beginning, because I was the most experienced of the musicians in the band, because John had been playing about 2.5 years, Chuck a little less. I've been playing like 7 or 8. I was the accordion player, so I chose the music, and I was, more or less the leader of the band. So my contribution to Styx was one of kind of leadership. Mm-hmm. And those Styx records could have never been produced, written, or recorded without the talents of all the people involved. Right. That's just a fact.
Sure.
I can't be Styx without Tommy and JY, and I believe it's true of them. You need Mo, Larry, and Curly, I think, at this point in the same room to get the chuckles right. But on this album, I think you can see, you can hear, rather. Looking at the record is not going to help. But hearing it, you'll get a sense of who I was in there.
Now, I thought the new song, East of Midnight, that was very grand of illusion to me. Because I remember I was playing that song very early in my career, teenager, whatever. And when I dropped the needle on that's the first thing I thought was, my God, he's redoing the Grand of Illusion. Was that on purpose, or am I missing it completely?
No, of course not. I was trying to. The song itself is about hearing music on the radio and how it can change your life, mm-hmm. which it did for me certainly, and it's in response to a lot of fan comments that have been made to me both in person and Facebook about how. The music, Steve, that we made changed their lives, and thank you for making the music. You've made mm-hmm. my life better for it, and mm-hmm. I think it's a beautiful thing to have happened, but really I was just trying to beat Queen and Foreigner, for God's sake, you know what I mean? So, yeah, of course, I thought, well, since this is my last album, I'm the guy who wrote Grand Illusion. So I went back there and said, what would it be like if I was trying to put a song on the Grand Illusion album? But really, that song is a collaboration between Jim Peterick, myself, and John Melnick, and that song was on a demo reel that Jim had. It was different because, but I heard it and I said, my God, that could be a Styx-like song mm-hmm. without, if I just get my fingers in there, start squeezing the clay. And so there you go. We changed the lyrics and made it into a real. A pump rock sort of tune. And so it really wasn't just me on that song.
Right. Okay. Now, with the last stuff that you've done, you brought up Jim Peterick, who's written so many hits for a lot of different bands. I met him. Wonderful, wonderful guy. Last year, you came out with Proof of Heaven with him. Fantastic song. How long have you worked with Jim, or how long have you known Jim?
I've known Jim a long time, 25, 30 years, but we worked together. I sang a song on one of his albums called To Love Somebody. I can't remember, it was 16, 17 years ago. And then one time we tried to sit down and write something. Sure. Nothing came out of the session. It just was a bust. But Jim knows the president of Frontiers Records. He has He has music on the label,
Sure.
and I had a live DVD CD on Frontiers.
Mm-hmm.
And Serafino, the president, offered me the opportunity to make a studio album. I turned him down because I said I didn't really want to do this anymore. I didn't think there was a purpose because of the way the music business has changed, and that rock music has devalued itself. And there is no radio, and the only reason to do this stuff is to have a chance to communicate with people. And I thought that the way the structure was, guys like me, who are in their 70s, for goodness sake, should we still be on the radio? I don't even know if we should, but I know my peers who are much more successful than I am, they have trouble getting any radio airplay. So I thought it was kind of a fruitless endeavor, but Jim kept nagging me. "Den, the world needs your music." I said, "Jim, have the world text me, would you please?" He wore me down. He sent me a song I liked that he'd been working on called "Run for the Roses." I said, "Let's get in a room and see if we can finish that song." We got in the room, and before you knew, we had 8 songs. How about that?
Is that how it usually works, when you work with others? I mean, I would have to think, who haven't you worked with that you still want to work with?
Well, I suppose there's lots of people, but, I've been mostly self-contained my whole life. I haven't really worked with that many people, not like Jim. He's worked from the biggest people in rock and roll to the janitor and superintendent of public schools. He writes with everybody. He's a professional, prolific songwriter. He's a great one. Me, I stay in my house and watch Law and Order reruns and eat pizza. I don't really have that ambition that he has, and we've talked about it a bunch.
Sure.
And our conversations were fruitful, not only to our relationship, but also to the lyrics on this album. It's going to be 2 anyway. But, working with other people is tricky. It's got to be right in all ways. You just want to do it, frivolously. But Jim and I made a real nice effort. Half the songs we've co-wrote on this, and the other half I wrote. So I think it's a beautiful representation of our friendship and our work.
Are you still writing what they deemed progressive rock music?
I got to tell you, I'm not a fan, never have been, of genres and pigeonhole people.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the Styx music, you realize that the variety exists because I pushed it. We had 3 different songwriters who came from different points of view.
Mm-hmm.
And thing I'm most proud of Styx is not only that we stood for something. If you look at all the bands of our peers, of our time and our big success, Queen or Journey or any of them, Foreigner, we had something to say. We had social commentary in our music. I'm proud of that. And the second thing I'm most proud about is Babe, Renegade, and Mr. Roboto. If you played those for somebody, they wouldn't even think it's the same band.
No, they would not.
Yeah, we had great success with all 3. The variety matters. I don't like, because the minute you define something, prog rock, then the people who are prog rock purists get mental with you. Like, if you want to belong to our club, you better have the top button on your shirt button. Well, I didn't get into this biz to subscribe to some artificial definition of what you like. It's not important to me what you like. No disrespect to the fans.
Sure.
It's important what I like and the musicians I'm making the music with like. That's what counts. Because this is a gift to have the opportunity to communicate with people musically. And if you're going to have this gift, you should use it properly. And that means they want your point of view. That's what they're looking for.
Right.
So prog rock, we were American rock and roll band at our hearts, who dabbled with pop, who dabbled with prog. We had all kinds of influences. We were a hybrid. So if somebody wants to pigeonhole us in one little area, it's fine by me if they want to, but don't expect me to live up to your expectation.
Right.
I'm just going to make the music that makes me happy.
Sure.
Because here's what I do, Steve. I find some notes. I find some chords.
Right.
I stick words on the notes, and then I tell you my point of view of what I see in my life and around me, in the hopes that strangers will find themselves in my story. That's what I do.
I know it's in my story because for you, Styx was at my prom. Okay, quick story. I remember dropping vinyl. My sister had for, I think it was for Christmas, she got Styx, Equinox, and A Day at the Races from Queen. First time I dropped that in spring, I was in grade school or something like that. When Light Up hit the console, I was hooked. I was like, who is this band? And I had no idea what rock radio was at that time. And here I am now, all these years later.
Well, Equinox was a breakthrough album for us because our whole career has been a handbook on how not to have a career in music. We had no real management in the beginning. We had no real record company. Woodnecker was not a record company.
No.
And we made 4 albums. In the first album, we were told what to play on 4 tracks. We were budding songwriters. Lady was there for the first album. They kept it off. They had no clue. They were clueless as a record company. They had no power, nothing. And the music business is called the music business because the business is very important to the music, conversely. And so when it comes right down to it, Equinox was Equinox. If you go back and listen to Man of Miracles, it sounds like there's a leap of 10 years between Man of Miracles and Equinox, in my opinion.
Yep.
And that's because people said, Lady's a hit, we like it, and we like Styx too. They made it gold. And I said, well, I know how to do that because of the 7 songs, 5 of them were mine. Mm-hmm. So on Equinox, we write it, I'm going to say, I kind of took charge because of Lady's success and righted the ship and said, here's the direction we should be going in. And so on Equinox, sounds like I'm bragging. It's just a fact.
Yep.
Of the song. I wrote every song on. I was a songwriter in every song on there, and the lead vocalist on all of them but one.
You were? Yep.
So I knew which way we should go with Equinox, and I'm glad you liked it because it was a pretty terrific album. Once again, the record company, they dropped the ball on it. It originally sold 250,000 copies, and then 2 years later, when Grand Illusion hit, it went on to sell over 2.5 million. That's proof that they made a mistake. But, our career has been, as I said, a handbook of how not to run a career.
So with your last question here, I love the stories you're telling me. Where do you stand? Where in all the legends and all the great voices, what will you be remembered for? Or where are you when they stack all of this? Where does Dennis DeYoung land?
Oh, I don't know. Look, here it is. Singing voices. If you're talking about voices, there are people. There are a lot of people who think I'm one of the best, and there's a lot of people that would rather have oral surgery than listen to me. Singing voices are so personal and unpredictable and subjective that I have no clue. I'm a kid with an accordion and a dream. That's all I ever was, and just trying to like all of us, like you, Steve. We want a pat on the head. We want to be approved of. We want to have people think that we're worthy of their attention and their love. That's all we want. We're humans. We're not any more than that on this planet. And as the current situation will show us, we're not in control of anything, truly. And so where I end up is where I end up. And it's just my job to try to do the best job I can. And most of the time I did.
That you did, my friend. I hope this is not your last album, 26 East Volume 1. You've got brand new music. Dennis, you always welcome on The Blend. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, my friend.
From the album, 26 East Volume 1, here are the 2 tracks Dennis spoke of. The first one, To the Good Old Days, sung with Julian Lennon, and then his second, East of Midnight. You're listening to The Blend.